I'm Max Goodman. I'm a 12th grader here at Friends School, and I'm a little nervous, and I'll be talking probably significantly too fast. So this talk starts with a question for the teachers. Why do you teach? Apart from the luxurious salary and the fun paperwork, there's got to be something fulfilling in the relationship you have with your students. And I've sort of known that fulfillment by being an older brother and a chaperone on the 9th grade trip. But I know that it's bigger than relaying facts to young people. The best word I could find for that fulfilling something was mentorship, exchange of knowledge in a personally meaningful way. And that got me thinking back on my time here and what separated my teachers from my true mentors. I couldn't find a satisfying dictionary definition, so I asked researchers at UMD about academic mentors in their personal lives and looked up where the word mentor actually came from. Turns out, the first time we see the word mentor is as the name of a character in Homer's Odyssey. And this character is left behind in Ithaca by Odysseus to take care of his family and help raise his son Telemachus. But by the time Telemachus reaches adolescence, Ithaca is in a state of total anarchy. And so he makes it his personal mission to find his father and retake the palace from the suitors who have overrun it. At every step in this quest, he's aided and advised by his trusted mentor, who sometimes is actually possessed by the spirit of the goddess Athena, the goddess of wisdom and victory, who makes sure that each smaller challenge that Telemachus needs to overcome to reach his goal, he can meet. So keep that story in mind. There's a lot to unpack there about what the role of the original mentor is. But the first part is pretty simple. Mentors are facilitators. That story you just heard was not about mentor. It was about Telemachus. All mentor did was help. And he was essential because he helped Telemachus do the only thing that ever mattered to him, finding his father and retaking Ithaca. So mentor didn't force his passion on him. He couldn't have. He may have opened a few doors that helped Telemachus realize what he needed to do. But the drive belongs to Telemachus, not mentor. As facilitators, we need to accept that we're not shaping our students any more than our students are shaping themselves. So Telemachus' desire was pretty clear cut. It was retake the throne. That has two steps. One, find Dad. Two, kill all of Dad's competitors. But for a modern day Telemachus, it's much more complicated. Say you want to be a scientist. Where do you start? That's a hard thing to accomplish, and it involves lots of little pieces. So what does a facilitator do to grease the wheels? They give their mentee a push. This may mean throwing them out of the nest, but more likely and more often it's going to mean being like Athena and making lots of smaller challenges that they know their student can overcome, give them chances to walk before they run. Either way, people need to be challenged or they will not grow. So you created a challenge. Your engineering student is in a design competition. What is next? Well, now you become a resource. When they run into problems, you become the sage on the mountaintop. And this is the fun part where you get to share your knowledge and experience and give them the answers to questions they wouldn't know to ask. But telling is not enough. It's never enough. Overcoming challenges is more than having all the right information. That's why we benefit so much from having people to model ourselves after. In fact, the traditional way we think about mentors is as role models. The two words are interchangeable if you hear them in the context of a youth program or professional development. But what's wrong with just being the sage on the mountaintop? A passive library of knowledge, that sounds so much more relaxing than teaching. Well, the truth is facts are cheap, and they're only getting cheaper with the advance of technology. I could go on Wikipedia right now and find all the facts I need to make this talk. But not everyone can make this talk. Why? Because public speaking is a skill. So is writing. And they're skills that I learned from the examples of my teachers and my peers. And that human element can never be eliminated from education. And it's the one thing that we can also hold on to, the reason that mentors need to be role models. Now, this is not a new thing, that skills are more important than facts. 5,000 years ago, Socrates said that, and I think it's at the bottom there, I cannot teach anyone anything. I can only show them how to think. Sorry. Okay, and this is really essential. It turned into the Socratic method, where he would ask a big question and then follow up with little questions and then teach them what to do. And that is so important. That is everything we've talked about so far, and that's how he got to be a mentor to Plato, who got to be a mentor to Aristotle, who got to be a mentor to Alexander the Great. Now the next thing, which is this slide, is that as a role model, you also have to be a moral role model. You have to be admirable so that the child that is looking up to you cares about becoming like you. That's where you get work ethic, when they try their hardest to build in themselves the things that they like, that they saw in you. Don't start thinking that you are a superhero, though. It's important to treat your students with some measure of equality. If you treat them as peers, people all want to fulfill other people's expectations of them. Treat them as equals, and they will try to become your equals. Give them the benefit of the doubt as well as autonomy to make their own decisions. And a great example of this attitude is our own Laurel Flyer, who almost always addresses her students as scholars. And I know that made a big difference to me, just that little tweak in language. So still, trusting your students is only half the battle. They have to trust you as well. For them to improve academically or otherwise, it's important that they feel safe bearing their shortcomings and asking for help. To encourage them to readily admit their humanity, sometimes you may have to admit yours. In conclusion, please realize that as teachers, older siblings, and upperclassmen, we're here in part to help other people invent themselves. Please remember that this does not mean doing it for them. And never stop improving yourself for your own sake and for the sake of those who look up to you. And take a deep breath, because you're all doing fine.